Hey, and welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This is the show all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager, a farmer, or a food producer selling at farmers markets, or just a curious farmers market shopper, this is the podcast for you. On today's episode, we're speaking with Maya Madsen of Maya's Cookies. She sells all vegan, fresh-baked cookies at local farmers markets. We're talking to her about how she got started in the cookie business, why she loves working the farmers markets, and how she manages to keep track of all the hectic schedules, multiple employees, and loads of data that needs organizing to make her business a success. Hey, I'm your host, Bridget Myers. I've spent years as an on-site farmers market manager for San Diego markets, and I've done it all from pulling permits to social media marketing.
And I'm your other host, Justine Marzoni-Mead, hot sauce maker and event facilitator for the Intense Conference.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, farmers market manager, market expert, and founder of Intense Business. Thanks for joining us today. We want to welcome our guest this week, the Maya in Maya's Cookies. She launched her business in November 2015 with just 4 flavors of cookies. Now she has 20 flavors, 7 employees, and is at 3 farmers markets a week. Oh wait, 4. Maya's Cookies was just voted San Diego's best vegan baked good of 2017. Thanks for being with us today. Welcome, Maya.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
We're really excited to talk to you because you have such an interesting story, and I feel like this is like the perfect farmers market startup story, and we are really excited to just kind of get to know you and see what's in the future. But first, let's start with what is your background in food business? You can tell us about that.
Sure. Actually, I have no background in food business. That's my background.
That's also normal in the farmers market business, I think.
So what'd you do? What cubicle did you escape from?
Well, I spent 30 years as a fitness professional, so that was my career.
So cookies are like the natural
next thing that you
obvious
do.
choice. So I had completed everything I set out to do in the fitness industry. I was one of the top instructors in San Diego. And the Union Tribune came in May of 2015 to do a feature on me. And they sent the photographer to do the photos for the feature that was going to be run. And I happened to be making chocolate chip cookies that day in my kitchen. And that's the photo that ran. You can look it up still on the internet. And
Destroyed your fitness career.
Yeah, as fitness people do, they eat cookies,
exactly.
right?
And they mentioned that they were vegan cookies. And I got a lot of inquiries after that article ran.
Oh, so
So
people
it's the
who saw
classic,
you.
these are so good, you got to sell these.
Pretty much, that's exactly what happened.
Why were they vegan cookies? Are you vegan?
I am vegan. I'm probably someone's worst nightmare, a vegan personal trainer.
That does sound like my personal worst
I
nightmare.
feel kind of intimidated.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was vegan, and being a personal trainer, I always ate healthy and followed a healthy lifestyle. I still do. But on my cheat days, I wanted a delicious, cheaty, gooey cookie, and there just wasn't anything out there on the market. So I made it myself.
Self-serving. That's kind of how the
Exactly.
Mercado got started. Yeah, my first farmer's market, couldn't find a grocery store nearby, had to start a farmer's market.
I feel like I hear that from a lot of vendors. Like, why are you making the sauce? Well, I couldn't find it anywhere that tasted anywhere like close to what I would make at home. So I just thought I'd make it. And then people told me, this is great, you should sell it. And that's how these stories begin. So
Yep,
it's a
that's
nice
my
classic
story too.
How'd you decide to start at farmer's markets?
Well, interesting. One of my favorite products, bitchin' sauce, that I used to purchase at the grocery store, they were kind of my motivation. I loved that product, so I looked them up on the internet and I read their story, and I thought, oh, they started a farmer's market, and here they are at one of the top natural foods chains in San Diego, or the top. So that's, that was one of the main reasons why I decided to start at farmers markets, but I also did my research, and it was the most cost-effective way to start a business. I had 2 kids in college at the time, and anyone who's ever had 2 kids in college at the same time knows how expensive that is, and I needed to be really, really careful with my budget, and I did my research that summer. I went to all the farmers markets with my son. He helped me, and the markets run by San Diego markets, I noticed, were of higher quality. And
Thank you.
we'll have to agree with you.
She was not coached.
they were
not
higher
paying her.
quality, I noticed they had a management team on site, and they were very helpful at the management booth, and they answered all of my questions. I was probably a pain in the butt. I asked a bazillion questions. And yeah, we just did our research that summer, and I figured out that the markets were going to be the most cost-effective way to reach the consumers for Maya's cookies.
That's great.
Excellent.
How do you decide which markets to do? You've been in a lot of our San Diego markets, but you've also been in some other markets in San Diego County. How do you make a decision on which market to go to, which ones to stay with?
Well, actually, my category seems like it's a category that is full.
Yeah, baked goods
And-
can be tough. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's baked goods. A lot of farmers markets would not accept me. So I applied to everyone I could, and you guys were the only ones that were willing to give me a chance. So I'm loyal to San Diego markets for that. I always
You did our
been
Vendor
to.
101 class, though, right?
Absolutely.
So we had some interaction with you, and we knew how serious you were about your business and that you were doing this in an organized way. So that probably helped, too. There are a lot of baked goods applicants. That's always a little bit of a trick for farmers market managers not to overload a market with baked goods. But there weren't a lot of vegan baked goods at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think the personal experience we'd had just talking to you in class and things helped.
Yeah, I think that filling that vegan kind of void that's not really right now because it's kind of picking
kinda
up
grown,
speed. But
yeah.
a few years ago, there wasn't a ton of vegan options, and we have a lot of vegan shoppers at the market. They're there to pick up their produce from the farmers, and they're there to have a beverage and things like that. But there wasn't always a lot of options for them. So having baked goods, but then also a vegan option for them, I think made sense for us, and it just was nice to have you start there.
But how do you know how many cookies to make for the market? I think that's the question that comes up so often with people that are just thinking about getting started in markets, or people that we see in our class. They say, how do you know how much to make for market?
Well,
So
I'll tell you.
is there a secret? Is there a secret
Yeah.
formula? Because
I-
actually, even as market managers, we don't know how to answer that one. It's
Yeah.
something that comes up so often.
I do have a formula for that. I keep meticulous records, and from every single market that I've been in, I keep records of how many of each flavor that we baked and take to the market. At the end of the market, I go back to my notes and write notes on how the cookie flavor sold, what our sales were, if there was inclement weather, if there was a special event, just any data that would help me if I needed to go back and research how we did at a market. So I can go back to this time last year or 2 years ago, and I can look, which I often do for fun, and see what cookies sold, how many sold, what our sales were, what the weather was like. And
Great.
it just boils down to keeping records and being on top of your product.
I
So
think you are in
smart.
the top 5% of most organized farmers market vendors because I have a feeling not a lot of vendors do that, but it sounds like it's so helpful. And when people say, I don't know why I'm selling out of this, or maybe I should bring more of this, it's like you really have to track and you have to reflect on what's happening each week at the market. It sounds like it's really helping.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you again, remember I had 2 sons in college, so I could not waste a penny.
Yeah.
I had to stay on top of every dollar that came in and went out and how I was spending my money. And part of that was just keeping accurate records. Plus, I'm a Virgo and we like to look at data.
Data's fun.
Data is
We have
fun.
those numbers. Justine, your business is not, you don't deal with things that are quite as perishable as cookies. So
Well,
it's a little bit.
we do have one product that is a fresh, raw, perishable product, and that's one of the most difficult things that we have to deal with is forecasting. And some days we're like, we're gonna kill it today, and then it's cloudy in San Diego and no one comes out,
Or it's just sunny and they all go to the beach.
yeah, or we think, oh, Mother's Day weekend, it's going to be kind of slow because the people have their plans.
Never.
That example, like, off the top of my head. And then it's crazy and we sell out too early. So that is definitely kind of a tightrope you have to walk of, is it better to sell out or is it better to have too many? So if you had to choose, what would be...
What would
choose
you
your
do, Maya?
poison.
Especially when you get such a perishable product. It's
Right.
not like you can pack it up and probably sell it again
Right.
3 days
No.
later. So what do you think is better?
Well-
Having some left over, or
I think having some left over for me, for my business, is better because we can cut those up and use them as samples the next
you
day.
go. Smart.
I can give them to my neighbors because I owe my neighbors. They're always helping me out in one way or another.
I would like to be your neighbor.
So I give them to my neighbors. I put them in my kids' lunches. I use them to experiment on other products. For instance, if I have leftover cookies, which I try not to have very often, I'll experiment maybe making ice cream sandwiches out of them or seeing what else I can make them into. So
Cookie crumbles
Well,
that you can
I'll-
sprinkle on things. Is that an up and coming
did I tell
product?
you that already?
No.
That's our newest
It's with this
product.
wavelength thing. Oh, really?
Yes. So cookie croutons. That's what
Cookie
we're working
croutons.
on.
That's
cute.
clever.
I like it.
Oh yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Make salad
Way to
fun.
ease the waste. Always looking for ways to use up the waste. But I'm
Right.
glad to hear you say that you'd rather have a few left over than run out, because having dealt with me as a market manager,
Oh, yes.
I do not like vendors that
I
run out
know.
regularly.
But you know what? I listen to you, Kat, and you're right. And the customers aren't happy. The market managers aren't happy. I'm not happy because it's sales that I've lost because I
Yeah.
didn't have
Right.
enough product. So
Yeah.
that
Well,
all-
the managers aren't happy precisely because the customers aren't happy.
Exactly.
At a grocery store, you have the same experience at 8 o'clock at night as you do at noon if you go to the grocery store. And we compete with grocery stores. If we want people to keep shopping with us, those shelves have to be full if
Yep.
they get there after soccer practice and after dinner. So,
I
so it's
agree. So
important.
yes, I hate having to turn away customers, and I don't like to see our customers leave unhappy. So
And you
yes,
might miss out
sometimes-
on really making like a loyal customer too, because if someone tries your
Yeah.
cookie at 7:15 p.m. at a market that closes at 7:30 and they have that cookie, that could be a regular loyal customer for life, for the duration of your
Absolutely.
business. So you really don't want to leave any of those sales out on the table by running out.
Absolutely. That's why those accurate records are very handy.
Loving that data more and more.
Maya, so you started out as cottage food, right?
Actually, no.
Oh,
I didn't
no.
start out as cottage food. The health department wanted me to start out as cottage food, but I had other plans. So in my mind, well, people might see my business as a cookie business, but in my head, what I'm visualizing is Qualcomm. I'm Irving Jacobs, and this is Qualcomm of cookies in San Diego. So
Good for you.
that's what I visualize in my head. So that's how I treat my business.
Smart.
Yeah.
Think big.
When they told me what the parameters were for cottage foods, I knew that I was going to blow those numbers out of the water
Yeah.
within 2 years because that was my goal.
And
Well,
they cap
especially
you
when
at
you-
$50,000.
And back when she
Gross.
started,
Gross.
the cap was 35.
Oh, wow.
Because that was a cap
That's
that
when they
climbed, and
started
it
it.
finally
Yeah.
stopped at 50. But yeah, it used to be 35,000 gross.
You can't even cover your costs,
No, because by the time you take your
Yeah.
ingredient cost out,
especially if you have employees. And
absolutely.
And not only that, I have 3 sons and a husband, and I make everything from scratch. So my oven, sometimes it just just shuts down. It's like I give up.
It's a hard-working
right. It's a hard-working oven.
It's
we have
busy.
Exactly. So I couldn't.
Yeah, and I
even
think making them at
imagine.
home with all those boys, it just sounds like the samples would be a business
Yeah.
destroyer.
Yeah.
And they're inviting their friends over,
Exactly,
and then
and that actually did happen. Before I started my business, I baked some for a friend, and I had them all laid out to dry, and I had them all counted up. Oh, no. And I left for an hour and came home, and there were some missing. And I asked my boys, "Who ate these?" And they were like, "We didn't touch them." Turns out it was my husband. And I was like, "What?" They were just sitting here. I'm like, you can't just eat my inventory.
don't mess with the data. Well, that's smart. I think that's kind of a good point to make. I think the Cottage Food Act that was passed, just a few years ago in San Diego is a great option for some small businesses to get started. But really, it's difficult to scale up quickly in any kind of manner if you're at home, because you need that deck oven. You need your product to have privacy and not be eaten by the people that are living in your house. And then also, if you're trying to function a household, when are you going to have time? When is your oven going to be available? When is your counter space available for all those baking hours or cooking hours or whatever you're making? So I think it works for some people, but it is nice to hear that you kind of projected that and knew that you were going to need to scale up a little quicker and be in a commercial kitchen.
Yeah, and that's also something I love that you said you think of yourself as like Qualcomm, because I think when you start a business, there's so many costs, and it's easy to just be like, okay, well, I'm just going to buy this really small thing, or I'm just going to start right here. But if you don't have the foresight to see yourself grow, you end up paying for permits twice, right? You end up getting the cottage food permits, and then you have to get another PFR when you go to a commercial kitchen, or you have to keep adding things on, and it could end up costing you more than if you just did it from the get-go.
Yeah, just think big to start.
Yeah, I think we were
big.
just talking about this the other day. We had a vegan ice cream vendor actually years ago, probably 5 years ago in North Park, and she was so great, but she was just like in her mom's van, and she was making it in a commercial kitchen, but she had this great ice cream. It was just the best ice cream anyone had ever tasted, but she started with such small quantities. She kind of succeeded herself out of business because she didn't have like the capital to invest back in to ingredients to make more ice cream because she was selling out at every single market. And she did this, she was only in the market for 5 or 6 weeks, but she was such a hit. And she ended up telling us, you know what, I just am out of money. I can't even put gas in the car to drive to the market. And it was so unfortunate, and I wanted to help her. But yeah, I knew that she started out just thinking she was going to try the markets out. And if she had started out thinking, this is going to be the Qualcomm of vegan ice cream, then I think it would have been turned out differently for her. So it's nice to make those projections before you get too deep into it.
Yeah. So you started with 4 flavors. What were your 4 flavors? And then we struggle with this as hot sauce makers. Like, we're at 4 flavors now, and I think we're going to be there for a while. But because adding in more, you have to do research. You have to make sure they're a hit. And so tell us what that was like and how you developed those flavors.
Sure. Well, I started with my basic chocolate chip, which was a chocolate chip recipe that I veganized, and that was what I was known for. From there, I decided to make a chocolate version of my chocolate chip, and that was my second flavor. My third flavor, it was half and half, so half chocolate chip, half chocolate.
And I like that. It's a WD-40 in and out kind of attitude. Keep that inventory list.
Side note on that, it was not a great seller, and one day I was looking at my marble countertops, and I thought, I wonder if I could swirl this around and turn this into a cookie, the chocolate, because the half and half wasn't selling. So I did that, and that's our best seller, our marble fudge chocolate chip. That's my best selling cookie by far. So that's a little side note story on how that cookie came to be. And the fourth flavor, are we on the fourth? 1, 2, 3. I was adding mint to the chocolate. And we had chocolate chip mint, which is my take on the Girl Scout cookie.
Right.
Double chocolate mint.
Exactly.
Exactly. Problem is the mint is so strong that I can't put it with anything because everything around it will start smelling and tasting like mint. So we do still sell that cookie, but it's a limited edition flavor.
Interesting.
Interesting. And then you expanded and you've added so many flavors since then.
Yes. Ideas, I get inspiration everywhere and anywhere, and some I write down and go back to. Others, we try them and they're an epic fail. But I always have ideas in my head of flavors that I want to try to turn into a cookie. So there's always hundreds of flavors in my head. I have notes written down, my employees, my staff, my family, friends. They give me ideas, and sometimes they're a hit, sometimes they're a bomb. So we won't know until we create them. But yes, that's how.
At least you know, though, with a farmer's market, you know that they're an epic fail or a big hit.
Exactly.
Probably within a market or two, because the customers tell you. It's not like putting 3,000 of them into boxes and sending them off as a wholesale product,
exactly.
and then having the stores come back and say, hey, we've still got 2,995 of these boxes. Nobody likes these. Then what do you do?
Yep.
Whereas at the farmer's market, you can make a batch and get that instant feedback. That's one of the cool things I think about markets.
That's one of my favorite things about the farmer's market, and other businesses that are starting up, and they've come to me and asked me for advice. Not that I'm some market guru, but I tell them farmer's market is the way to go because you have direct contact with your customer base. You get to develop a relationship. They'll tell you if something is great, they'll tell you if something's bad, and it's honest feedback that you can't get once you send your product off to the grocery store, in my opinion.
Yeah, we've heard that from the Bitchin' Sauce guys. They started a long time ago with us, and they've grown into tons of grocery stores. They're in Costco, but they're still at the farmer's market, and they've told us we like to be face-to-face with our customers because we don't have to wait for feedback. We don't have to wait, 6 weeks from a grocery store to say this flavor isn't working, but we don't know why. And so you can't even ask the customers because you don't know why they're not picking it up. At the farmer's market, someone can taste it and say, oh, that's too salty, or oh, if this was a little spicier, it'd be better. And they can adjust their recipe right then. So it's that really, you're saving money on, those, data, getting everyone in a room and collecting data. You can just do face-to-face at the markets, and it means a lot.
And also, I've noticed, once you get those loyal, regular customers, they learn your products almost better than you. If you change one ingredient, they're going to notice. They're going to say, "Hey, why is this different than?" And so it kind of makes you be consistent. It raises the bar for you. Where if you sell something at a grocery store, somebody tries it once, and then there's not as much repeat customers. But face-to-face at the farmer's market, your customers are going to tell you, hey, this is different, or I like this better than I did last week, or so
I agree.
It's really valuable.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So as you've continued to expand, we see a lot of businesses at the farmer's market, especially when they start out, that are sort of one-man shows. We we actually say about Intense, just because you're flying solo, you don't have to be alone. We're here for you. But at some point, you actually have to have real people in the booth with you. So where did you get to the point where you decided that you needed to hire staff?
Well, it hit me when I was working 20 hours and I still wasn't able to get my things to do list for that day done, that I probably need to hire some extra help. My extra help were my children.
Of course.
As children are.
Yeah. Bridget knows.
As I know all too well.
But that was fine temporarily, but I needed, in order to grow, because again, in my head, I'm Qualcomm of the vegan cookie world in San Diego. So in order to grow and expand and be able to produce the product and get it out to my customers, I knew I needed real long-term help. So I would say that was probably a year in. I ditched the kids. They still work for me. And they still help out. But that's when I hired my first production assistant in the kitchen to help me out, to help produce more product. And from there, I started adding more employees as needed. And each time I scaled up, I was always relieved that I did and hired someone, even though it was a little bit costly. I was able, because I keep good records, to manage those costs and make sure I recoup those costs as quickly as possible and grow. So I would say 1 year in for production help, and then a few months after that, I started hiring more help for the markets.
Yeah.
How do you keep your employees from eating your cookies?
Well,
Can you control them as easily as you can your husband? Or is it harder, easier?
my employees and myself, we know how many cookies I bring to each market. Bottom line is I have records, and this is how much
This
of
seems
each.
to be a continuing theme.
Exactly.
Data's really helping you
So
out.
it has helped me out managing the inventory. So each of my employees is allotted a certain amount of cookies each market that they can take home, gift, use to trade with other vendors in the market. And we also have a little bit of leeway for customer service issues if there ever is something that needs to be resolved, just to help give them a cookie here and there if there's an issue, which usually there isn't, because we try to provide the best customer service possible. We just have records. They know how many cookies I take to each market.
Yeah, we have a lot of people ask us. That seems to be the big fear with small entrepreneurs when they start to hire somebody is we do a lot of cash business at the farmers markets. Are they going to steal from me? So, do you check references? Do you vet people? Do you hire people mostly from job boards or word of mouth? Or
For me, I have two methods. One is I use my community that my kids have grown up in their schools. I've sent them.
That's how our restaurant folks grew up.
All my friends worked at my mom's restaurant.
Exactly.
But it's
Because I've known them since they were preschoolers, up into adulthood. So I've
You have
seen
dirt
the
on
character.
them.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
You have records.
Right.
We have records. It's on their permanent record.
Exactly. And then I also research the local university, their vegan organizations.
Oh, nice.
If I need extra help for a special event, I will sometimes reach out to them and hire from there. So
Good.
it's been successful as
Yeah,
well.
so you're using a lot of different outlets. But have you had problems with employee theft? Or
No.
good?
No.
That's good. I very rarely actually see anybody have that problem, at least that they can identify. Every once in a while, somebody goes off the rails, but it seems to be a big fear with people, but I rarely actually see that happen.
I feel like if you keep good records and you're honest with your employees and you just let them know, here's the inventory list, here's what we have, here's yours, here's samples, then there's no issue.
They feel accountable, and they know
Right.
that everything's being tracked, and that they just need to do their job and do what's right in the paperwork, and
I think
works.
clear expectations is just the key to success in all of these areas,
I
right?
think so too. Yeah, you have to be organized, and you have to look like you have everything together in your business, and I think your employees will respect that and will follow the rules that you set as long as you set rules.
I agree. And one other note on that is, as my business succeeds, I also share that with my employees and my family. We go out to dinner, we do special things, we have contests every now and then, just fun things to let everyone know that I really do appreciate them. They're helping me grow. I can't do it without them.
Yeah, that's great.
It counts for a lot.
Building that team.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's been really valuable to talk to you, and of course, this is a great kind of really good success stories, starting out, kind of thinking about farmers markets, having a recipe that everyone loves, and people saying, oh, you should sell those cookies, and kind of developing that, and a recipe list that works, and getting into markets. I mean, this is like our ideal kind of farmers market story that we'd like to see. And people ask us about it in our class all the time, like, how do you get started and what are some hiccups? So it's nice to talk to you because you've done such a great job, and I know we're really glad to have you at the markets, and your customers love you so much, and you win awards and everything, which is amazing. But I know that we just see you face to face in the market. We know that you're doing a great job, and the shopper feedback is just always gushing about you. So nice to have you on the podcast. Yeah, so we just want to do a little wrap-up question here at the end, since we like to kind of ask questions when we have our guests on. What is the best cookie that you've ever eaten? So I think, Justine, you're going to have to go first here.
I have a secret that that my mom told me. Actually, my second word after mama was cookie. So I love cookies.
That's awesome. I think mine was coffee. We should hang out together.
My others is probably data.
Oh yeah,
Right.
lists, flowcharts.
But so I love cookies, and although I love Maya's, actually my favorite cookie is my dad's chocolate chip cookies. They're a lot like more plump kind of. There's kind of like smaller cookies that they rise a little bit more. They're a little bit cakier.
Yeah.
I like that. It's a good classic chocolate chip cookie.
All right, and I know that, Kat, you're not really a big sweets person, but once in a while you indulge.
Lemon. It's always a lemon cookie. Yeah. We like that tart sweet thing.
Yeah.
You've got a good lemon cookie.
Or limoncello, shortbread.
Yeah, it's so good.
And just thinking about limoncello.
That was my second word, limoncello. I have had a lot of cookies in my life because I'm a big sweets person, and I'll eat any sweet thing that's in close vicinity. But there was a restaurant, I grew up in Phoenix, and it's called Bertha's Cafe, and it was just one of those like delis, and they would wrap your sandwich and they'd stick a little cookie in there, like they put it in the paper with the cookie, and they were mini cookies, and it was a white chocolate chip but a chocolate batter cookie, and it was so good. And they were mini cookies, but they put a little extra in there. And Bertha, who owned the cafe, was a baker by trade, and she just happened to also develop a line of sandwiches and turned into a big deli, but her baked goods were always so good, and I just remember that cookie all the time.
I have to try it next time.
Whenever I go to Phoenix,
She's still there?
She's still there. Yeah, Bertha's Cafe.
I'll have to check it out.
Shout out.
You're surrounded by cookies all day.
Yeah.
What's your favorite cookie, Mom?
My favorite cookie is every single cookie that I make. And I'm not just saying that because I would never sell something that I didn't think wasn't delicious.
So it's like your children.
They're like my
just
kids.
You can't call
pick
out a
one.
favorite.
I can't call out a favorite.
Each special in their own
changes
way.
each week. This week, it would have to be chocolate chip s'mores.
Oh, those are a good one, too. I almost said that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I can't say Maya's cookies, but I really do like Maya's cookies, and I buy them all the time, and my kids come to the farmer's market, and I try to encourage them to talk to the farmer and get some, like, new vegetable and fruit, which they do, but then it's only because they know that after they behave and do all of that, they can go get a Maya's cookie.
Right.
And my daughter loves the Oreo stuffed cookie.
Excellent.
And my son likes the funfetti.
Oh, yes.
So
it's a kid magnet.
Yeah, so I think because it's pretty. And then actually both my sons like the funfetti. And I don't know why my younger son, he's 3 years old, and he calls it a donut. The funfetti one. He goes, I want a donut. I'm like, that's a cookie. He's like, no, it's a donut because it's colorful. I have no idea, but I just think it's so funny. But yeah, your cookies are really great. And we're not vegan, and we love them. And I think that's also true about your cookies, is that they're vegan, and sometimes vegan stuff to people who aren't vegan can taste a little different and maybe not as good. But I honestly, like I said, I eat a ton of cookies, and your vegan cookies taste just like a regular.
I agree. I remember that with sampling, because a lot of times we'll get samples in, and we've got a tasting panel that considers each product before it goes into the market, and a lot of times we'll get comments like, really good for a vegan baked good.
Yeah.
And yours were just really good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think half of us didn't even realize it was vegan.
Right.
And then we're like, oh, they're vegan too? Okay, great. You're serving that niche, but then also everyone else can enjoy it, so.
Thank you. I love hearing that.
Absolutely.
Makes me happy.
We hope you've enjoyed our conversation with Maya. You can pick up her delicious cookies next time you're at her San Diego farmers markets. Please leave us a review on iTunes and let us know how you liked today's episode. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss our next episode. And if you want more farmers market tips, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter at intensebusiness.com and follow us on Instagram at intensebusiness. That's INTENTS business. The 2019 Intense Conference will be held in San Diego, February 24th through the 26th. We really hope you'll join us.
This podcast is produced by Intense Business, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni-Mead. Original music by David Mead. Special thanks to our guest Maya Madsen and San Diego Markets.